Hey everyone, this is Corey with Stafford's EDC, and today we're taking a look at two really nice Slipjoint knives. These are customs coming from Mr. Benjamin Philbrick over at Philbrick Knives, and oh, I tapped the focus, so now it's all screwy. That's going to be annoying to do the whole time. You can see Ben's sticker here. Hopefully, I'm going to have to keep tapping this the whole time. It's going to drive me nuts. Okay, you also have tubes that come with these knives, and I got them switched. We have number 18 on the left and number 19 on the right. Yes, Ben's only made 19 knives, and we're going to talk about how good these are for 19 of them being made total. He's progressing a lot. I'm really happy with these guys, and I know he's going to continue to get even better with his fit and finish. So, real exciting to show these off. I'm going to put their COAs down here so we can tell you a little bit more about each knife here. So on the left, you have what Ben gave to me as a blemished trapper. I had reached out about purchasing this one, and he decided that he wanted to build me one instead. And then I ended up with this one as well. Big thank you to Ben for that. These are his small trappers, which are larger than most trapper patterns that you'll see from makers. These are about 3.7 inches closed, whereas the trapper pattern from most makers is going to be about 3.625 or 3 5/8, which the extra little bit of size on these is something I really appreciate because it's just a little small, the normal trappers for me. So these are very nice to have. CPM 154, both of these are. This one has butterscotch paper micarta. Again, it's number 18. This was made just before the new year, December 30th. Just gonna slide that guy out of there. I'll leave the logo up here in the corner. And then you have number 19, which is the one that Ben built for me. Same thing, like I said, CPM 154, 61 HRC. This has a vintage amber paper micarta, which has some really nice, beautiful patina that Ben left on the scales. This is number 19, as I said. And then he built this one, 2.5 weeks later on the 18th. So let's talk about these knives. Hopefully the focus is good. I'm really hoping anyway. Looks like the focus is maybe up a little bit. So I'm just gonna hold these right here while we talk about them. Again, these are both trappers. They are the same pattern. Again, this one on the left has a little bit more in terms of the fit and finish stuff that Ben was not super happy with. It's in part of that, I will get into the details. And then the one on the right is the one that he built for me. So you can see how they look. One on the right is much closer to center. One on the left is favoring the shield side a little more, I would say. Both are a little bit off center. Not a huge deal. There's no rub. I know a lot of people are sticklers about that. But in the case of a pinned knife, you can't really do anything about it once it's together. Sorry about that. A little bit of a cough. But as I was saying, there's not really much that you can do about a traditional pinned knife being off center. It either ends up centered or it doesn't. So not a huge deal here because there's no blade rub. You can see the pile sides here. Some nice finishing in the flutes on the bolsters. The pins look very good. They're nice and flush with the material. Back springs look really good on these as well. You can see his, some of the seams, but they're not recessed really. You can feel a little bit. It's not 100% flush, but you're seeing more of the seam than anything. So let's talk about number 18 here, this butterscotch paper. Again, this one was a blemish that Ben provided to me. So hopefully the focus comes in here. Yes, there we go. There's a little bit of a gap up here in the shield. The nail nick is about twice as long as the other one. Not something that Ben intended on doing. He liked the nail nick, and then he said he got a little bit over aggressive with grinding that one in. He also said he wasn't very happy with the walk and talk on this one, which I was surprised because this has really nice walk and talk. I'm sure you could hear that snap open and closed. Now this one being kind of a blem knife, as I said, this doesn't have a totally perfect finish down there at the bottom. You can see those lines. Not a huge deal. Not something I would expect him to spend a ton of time correcting for a knife that he, wasn't planning on selling necessarily. So, overall, very nicely built Everything looks really good. You can see that nice clip point blade with the swedge. Swedging looks nice and even. It favors this side just a little bit looking at the spine. Not a huge deal. Again, these are handmade. You're gonna run into some small things like that that might not be perfect, but that's okay. You know, this is, again, number 18. Hear that snap? That snap's closed. So I think he should be pretty proud of this one. I don't know how many knives Ben has made and scrapped as compared to the ones that he has actually serialized, but you know, the success rate, I imagine it's pretty high. You know, if this is the ones he's considering not as good, then, you know, you gotta be doing a pretty good job. So let's move on to number 19, the one that Ben built for me. This has some little things in it that I expect to see him improve on in the future, and it just more so has to do with the way that this was built, more so than him putting in effort or anything like that. So he knows I'm very happy with these knives too, and I know he'll appreciate hearing this feedback. There is, sorry if you can hear laughing outside. There is a little bit of a gap. It's almost like a chip out right above the shield in this one. It's very gonna be hard to see. I don't want to, I'll zoom. So you can see there's just a little bit of chip out right above the shield. You can also see the shield is finished differently in the center. I can tell you that Ben is definitely inlaying his shield and then finishing. So rather than finishing the shield and then inlaying it, it's being finished with the handles, which again is not something that you can really fault him for. I don't know how else you would do it, but the choice of leaving this patina left this finish here on the bolster, or not the bolster, on the shield. And you can see there's some pressure marks in this vintage canvas as well, or this vintage paper. This is something I was made aware of by Ricky Bob Menifee. I had a knife commissioned with him using a very similar material that he was unhappy with due to those pressure marks. Again though, not a major deal. Just that little chip out. You can see how much smaller the nail nick is as compared to this one. This macro view is probably really helpful. So I hope you guys are enjoying that. And I'll show you the gap here on this guy as well. So I hope that little zoom helps. It's helping me a lot because I can see on my phone where the focus is. Again, the centering's a little off. We're not rubbing or anything. You can see the swedge is much more even on this one in terms of where it starts and stops and the depth, which is really nice to see. Bolsters are finished nicely. Let me zoom back out here just a little bit. We're still a little bit more zoomed in than we were at the start. This one has a much smoother pull, not quite as heavy of a spring. And you might have noticed there's some black on the edges of these. I'm planning to put my own edge on these knives. Not that they came dull or anything. When I have a knife I'm gonna keep, I absolutely put my own edge on it. It's never a knock on the maker. If it's pretty much razor sharp when it comes, that's perfect, that's great, I'll leave it alone. These had a little bit of a burr, which I knocked down, and then after using them a little bit, I decided I am definitely going to put an edge on them. Again, nothing wrong with the edge that Ben had on these. A little bit of stropping and it was good to go, but I just want to put a laser beam on this because that's what I do. You can see Ben's logo here, which I didn't call out, but you can see the stamp there on the tang. So not necessarily logo, but the stamp is the better way of talking about that. No markings on the other side. You can see some marks though in this direction, some rub. One of the things that I would love to see Ben do in the future is, especially if he's using a laser for this, I don't know if he's electro etching and then sanding to get rid of that finish in this spot, but I imagine it's a laser just by how clean it is. If he's using a laser, he can laser in relief in this area. Some knives, which I don't know if the one next to me has it. It doesn't. Sorry, I have another knife for another video next to me, but I know the one in my pocket does. This is a Grayson Jennings Stag Shadow Zulu. Grayson makes an unbelievable, out of this world knife. They're fantastic. You should absolutely bug him to get one. You will be waiting probably 2 years or so at this point. But one of the things that Grayson does is he has relieved liners. So I hope you can see right here how this kind of steps down just slightly. Usually you would use a mill. You can see that rounded portion there. That essentially acts like a washer almost on the sides of this, and that relief gives you space so you're not rubbing this area, this ricasso. So you can see there's no marks on this knife versus on the knives from Ben. You can see rub mark on this one and on this one. It's not a major deal. It is simply one thing that he can do to step his game up even further. Again, if he's using a laser, he can do that with the laser. Yeah, there's one other maker who I can't remember off the top of my head who's been experimenting doing it with a laser, but an end mill will absolutely do it. I believe that is how most makers do it. You can see these guys have really nice action. They're a nice size. Again, that 3.7 inch is just a much better size than 3 5/8 for me because my hands are a little bit larger. So this kind of notches right into my hand. It's a nice little gentlemanly carry. I don't think you'd have any issue with this in an office setting or something like that if that is a concern of yours. You know, overall, two really nice knives here from Mr. Benjamin Philbrick over at Philbrick Knives that I'm super happy with, and I'm glad to show these off for you. They both have really nice grinds. They're going to cut really well. You know, they have nice materials, and what he charges for these is not unreasonable at all. You know, I paid $500. Totally always willing to be straight up with people. I paid $500 for this, and to give you an idea, this cost me just under $1,700 from Knife Joy. Maybe it was just under $1,600. It was very close to that. It was either $1,600 or $1,700 for the Grayson Jennings, which is not a ton higher than what it would be table from him, I believe. Take that with a grain of salt. But to get these direct from Ben, small trapper with some vintage micartas, $500, pretty good deal. So if you guys are in the market for a custom slip joint, I believe he had 6 openings. I don't know if they're full or not, but I've recorded this less than a week after receiving the knives, and I know he posted he had spots available just before I got the knives. So hopefully they're still available. If not, then you guys are gonna have to, you know, bug Ben to open some more spots up. So again, that is Philbrick Knives. You can see his website down at the bottom, philbrickknives.com. He's on Instagram as at Philbrick Knives. You can find him. Let him know I sent you. I know he'll appreciate it. And Ben, I appreciate you. Thanks so much, and thank you guys all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.